Good afternoon, folks. Chief Meteorologist Nick Lilia here with a look at your tropical update brought to you by the good folks at Pine Belt Gutters. This is for August 8th of 2019. Things in the tropics, not necessarily active. However, it is an active day for tropical forecasting. The National Hurricane Center and NOAA releasing their updated forecast for the rest of the year, now calling for kind of above average numbers as we close out the rest of the year for hurricane season, which again runs all the way through November 30th. The Colorado State forecast from earlier this year, this is the updated NOAA forecast, 10 to 17 named storms, 5 to 9 hurricanes. They did not change the major hurricane numbers on there. That's still calling for just 2 to 4, which, by the way, that's about average. 3 is the average as you take the kind of long view. I think it's 2.9, but 3 is the average. 6, we're still running a little above average for hurricanes and named storms. By the way, if we do make it to 17, as you look at all the names here, we would make it all the way to Pablo there. So if for whatever reason we end up on the top end of that range, we'd make it to Pablo. However, we've only made it to Barry so far, and we're about a month out from the peak of hurricane season. Of course, that's on September 10th, so it's August 8th. We're sitting about right here. That little peak, sort of, that little peak right there, but the real peak is coming about a month from now, and then we start to kind of ease things back. By the way, this little jump that you see as we head into parts of late October is kind of because that's when we start to get cold fronts back moving through parts of the south. And as you get those cold fronts that move through, little pieces of them kind of break off into the Gulf of Mexico or just off the East Coast. So you have kind of an uptick in the number of storms that are out there. This time of the year, though, into August, we are looking out into the Caribbean and into the open Atlantic. Generally speaking, the red bullseye area is the points that we look at for development the most. But yeah, still looking into the Gulf. And still looking just off of the East Coast. As we get into September, then we really start looking out quite a ways. We've got just off the East Coast, into the Gulf of Mexico, the Northwest Caribbean, but yeah, then it's all the way out into the open Atlantic. We start watching those storms coming right off the coast of Africa. The reason is because the water temperatures warm up out there. It takes time to warm up the water. It doesn't happen right at the beginning of summer. So, Gulf of Mexico, always warm. Caribbean, always warm. However, so far this year, the Caribbean's actually running below average. It's finally starting to get back to average. We are running above average as you head out toward Bermuda. That may play a role as we head through the rest of the hurricane season, as we end up with systems that are maybe out to sea that form. So, you maybe 10 to 17 named storms, none of them may affect the United States. They may all be out to sea. Conversely, maybe all of them are close to the United States and none of them are out to sea. Well, we'll just kind of have to wait and see, unfortunately. But as of right now, really nothing doing into the Gulf. We're nice and quiet here. Zooming things down into the Caribbean, we've got what's left of Invest 96L. This thing just keeps on marching. I say what's left of 96L because the Hurricane Center isn't watching it anymore. It's not named anything, has no designation. It's just what's left of it from before. We've got another wave back here entering the Caribbean. This one's trying its best to hold together. This may need to be monitored through the next about 5 to 8 days as it marches across the Caribbean and maybe gets a little bit closer to the straits between Cuba and the Yucatan. Right now, most modeling, and we'll see this in a second, kind of takes it across and it gets eaten up. You can see a little bit of the shear in here. It gets eaten up by the shear, a lot like what's left of 96L. We got one a little further to the north. Another wave that just came off the coast of Africa, but look at this stuff just fall apart out here. It's not a good time to be an African easterly wave right now. It's just not a good life. We got more waves back in behind it, sure, but they're probably going to meet the same fate as the latest one, which is a quick demise because there's a lot of dry air and a lot of dust out there. You can see that there's a lot of dry air and dust into the Caribbean. This is where that first wave that I was talking about, I said, well, it's probably going to meet up with a little bit of shear, which is actually right in here, and probably not make it to too much further. But as you look out into the open Atlantic, look at all the dry air in here. By the way, this is 700 millibars moisture, 850 vorticity. What we're looking at in here, if this is your first time watching one of these videos, the grayed out areas, and once you get into the browns, that's where there's the dry, dusty air in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. Underneath that, we don't look for development. So anywhere you see all this gray stuff in here, you're not going to see tropical development anywhere underneath that. When we're looking at these bluish colors and eventually they get toward green, yellows, oranges, and reds, that's where we've got low-level spin, and that's what you need, a little area of low-level, low pressure, and that's what you need for some semblance of tropical organization. But man, look at all the dry air that's out there. I mean, it's pasted all the way from the coast of Africa all the way to, well, the Gulf of Mexico, pretty much. There's really not much doing out here. We get another little wave. You can see it, it's sneaking. It's right underneath it. And it's just off to the south of it, I should say, not right underneath it. It tries to hold together as we head through the 15th of August, but there's so much dry air out here and a little bit of shear. It's going to have a tough life. And just about the time that we get through that, another batch of some dry air comes off the coast of Africa. So the tropics are going to remain quiet as we head through the next about 5 to 10, maybe even 15 days, depending on how things shake out. So even with the National Hurricane Center and NOAA coming out and suggesting that we may have an above-average season as we head through the rest of the year, it doesn't look like during the next 5 to 10 days that we have very much to worry about. So again, there's your tropical update for August 8th of 2019, brought to you by good folks at Pine Belt Gutters.